Thanks for joining us tonight on another episode of The Racing Report. My name is Rob Peeters, and I'm your host for another fabulous little half hour where we're going to talk all things motorsports. Because last weekend, NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One, all in action. This weekend, though, just NASCAR. Though the Super Formula season does begin, so we've got that to look forward to. But even though we don't have a lot of races coming up this weekend, we still had a lot of news break over the course of the week that we do need to get to. So before we go ahead and jump right on into that, remember, if you like this show, feel free to follow me on social media. You can do so by looking up at rpeeters33. That's RPEETERS33. And then make sure to have the WTHR Plus app installed on your smart TV so that you can watch brand new episodes of The Racing Report each and every week whenever you want. You don't have to rely on the schedule for WTHR Plus. You could just go on and watch us on demand. We're also available on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe to WTHR if you haven't already. So, that being said, let's go ahead and jump right on into Formula One news for the week. And we had Max Verstappen kind of dominated the headlines this week because first he said after the Japanese Grand Prix that he is trying, quote, very hard to enjoy racing under these new Formula One regulations, but admitted that he is not ruling out retiring from Formula One completely. So Max Verstappen right now, as it stands, is not happy with the way the regulations are going. Now, granted, missing out on Q2, or Q3, I should say, getting eliminated in Q2, probably didn't help Verstappen's perspective all that much, and then running around just barely in the points didn't help much either. But I think it's more to that. I think some of the comments Verstappen made were very much like he enjoys spending time with his family a little bit more than he enjoys racing right now, and he's having a lot more fun racing in GT races than in Formula One, so it's not entirely far-fetched that perhaps Max Verstappen could be in his final season as a Formula One driver, but again, contracts and the sort, who knows if that's even going to be the case, but he seems to be almost doubling down on what he said at the beginning of the season, which was that he didn't like these new F1 regs, and he didn't like racing with them, and he wasn't enjoying himself. So definitely this is going to be something that we're going to have to keep tabs on for the rest of the year, because Max Verstappen is arguably one of the biggest names in Formula One right now. He's a multi-time series champion, and for him to walk away because of these new regulations would be something not unprecedented, but also very surprising in 2026. So we'll keep monitoring that. But Verstappen was also in the news a little bit before that when on Thursday, prior to the Japanese Grand Prix, he had a journalist kicked out of a media session due to a question that the reporter asked last December, when they were in Abu Dhabi. He asked Max basically about contact that Max Verstappen had with George Russell in Barcelona at the Spanish Grand Prix, and Max Verstappen did not like that question very, very much at all. And in fact, he apparently remembered the journalist's face, and when he showed up into the media room at Suzuka, Max said, "I won't start until this guy's out." So he's getting a lot of flack for that. So a lot of things to talk about, at the very least, with Max Verstappen from the past weekend of Formula One activity. But that's not the only bit of Formula One news we have for you in store this week. Also, we have an update to a story we brought you last week about Audi and Aston Martin. So, last week it was reported and confirmed that Audi team principal Jonathan Wheatley had left the team. Now, we reported, along with other outlets, that it was almost a slam dunk that Wheatley would be joining Aston Martin to take over for Adrian Newey. But Aston Martin ambassador Pedro de la Rosa, former Formula One driver himself, spoke to media during the Japanese Grand Prix and saying that Wheatley's not joining just yet, and until further notice, Adrian Newey is going to continue to serve as the team principal of Aston Martin. So a little bit of an update to that. Maybe it seems like some reports were jumping the gun a little bit there, but at the very least, it does appear, based on Pedro de la Rosa's comments, that something is in the works to get Wheatley into the team principal role at Aston Martin, but it seems like as of right now, that's not happening immediately. But eventually, he is expected to become the team principal of Aston Martin. Also, speaking of Aston Martin, the team says that it tested a solution to its vibration problems during practice for the Japanese Grand Prix last weekend, and the drivers, Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso, reported, quote, an 80% improvement in the vibrations before it was removed for qualifying. So kind of not the best way to go. You give your drivers a much-needed upgrade, make them feel a lot more comfortable and confident behind the wheel of the race car, and then just take it out when you need them to be flat out and going for qualifying. Just totally fine. But at the very least, they do have about a month now to get things sorted out and hopefully upgraded by the time the series arrives in Miami. Now, the reason for this was also kind of revealed over the weekend because Adrian Newey told reporters in Japan that Aston Martin was apparently unaware of Honda's problems until November, when himself, Lawrence Stroll, and other team leaders went to Tokyo to see the Honda development on the new engine. And apparently, from what they were told, Honda lost a lot of the employees and the staff that was working on the engine with Red Bull. And so they had to replace a lot of those people, bring in new people, shift some people around, and that kind of put them on their back foot right before preseason testing. So we kind of know a little bit more of what's going on here with the Aston Martin Honda program, but either way, here's hoping that maybe they can get things fixed up before next month. Finally, some interesting non-racing related news, but still has Formula One ties. Kind of want to talk about this. Nestle says that 12 tons of Formula One themed chocolate bars, or over 413,000 units, were stolen from a truck that was traveling from Italy to Poland. So we have a Formula One chocolate bar heist on our hands out of Europe. So definitely just a little bit of an interesting news note to end the Formula One segment on. But that being said, let's go ahead now and move on into the IndyCar news of the segment of the show, because we did tease at the top of the show some developments with the Indianapolis 500 entry list, and we'll get to that very shortly. But first, we need to talk about how Ed Carpenter Racing has announced Hunter McElrea will serve as the team's first official reserve driver. That was announced last week prior to the race at Barber. So I guess winning an LMP2 at Sebring does great things for you if you're Hunter McElrea. But of course, you know, he had lots of success in Indy Lights, now known as Indy Next. Before that, didn't really get a chance to get into IndyCar, but now Ed Carpenter Racing giving him an opportunity to at the very least get some seat time in the event that something were to happen to prevent Alexander Rossi or Christian Rasmussen from competing or practicing, qualifying, whatever. So, also in the panic for the IndyCar series, Rahal Letterman Lanigan says that it has shuffled the engineering team around for Mick Schumacher. Eddie Jones is now going to serve as Schumacher's race engineer, while Mike Pawlowski will shift to an engineering R&D role. RLL says that he will continue evaluating Schumacher's engineers heading into the month of May. So we could see Schumacher maybe have some more staff changes coming up here. But again, that all remains TBD. In the ratings, Fox says the IndyCar race from Barber drew about 906,000 viewers, making it the first IndyCar race of the year to get less than 1 million viewers. But it was also down compared to last year, which it netted about 914,000 viewers. Now, a lot of this is likely contributed to its time it went on at 1. There were a lot of March Madness games going on as well. That probably played into it. And as we talk about later on in the show, the same kind of problem befell NASCAR as well. So there's your news from the ratings. But now let's talk about that Indy 500 news that's very important here. Racer is reporting that Able Motorsports has officially filed the paperwork to enter this year's Indianapolis 500 with Jacob Able and a Chevrolet engine. So that would put the current entry list to about 32 cars. Now, In addition to that, Racer also reports that Andretti was expected to field an Indy 500 entry for Colton Herta. However, they are now evaluating and waiting for any potential additions to the Formula 2 calendar following the cancellation of the Bahrain and Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Now, the reason for that is because the F1 Academy, the all-women series, has added races in Montreal and Austin to supplement their calendar after losing those two races. But as of right now, Formula 2 and Formula 3 have not announced any calendar additions. So at the very least, F1 Academy will be in Montreal, but it's TBD whether or not F2 will be there. I'm hearing, based on rumors, it's more likely that F2 could go to Miami than Canada, but again, nothing's been announced, and we're still waiting to hear official word from the FIA. Now, final piece of IndyCar Indy 500 news is that Racer is additionally reporting, all of this comes from Racer, by the way, says that if Prema is able to field a car for the Indy 500, it will likely hire Catherine Legg, who already has sponsorships put together and a deal with Chevrolet. But in the event that Prema cannot secure an Indy 500 entry, what will likely happen is Chevrolet will look to put Legg in potentially a third AJ Foyt racing car. So somehow, some way, we're going to try and get to 33 or maybe even 34 entries in the Indianapolis 500 this year. But again, all of that remains to be seen, as we do have an open test coming up here in a few weeks for the IndyCar series. So we'll be definitely looking to watch and see what happens then. But with that being said, that is it for the open wheel news segment of the show. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to cover the news and notes from the world of Supercars and in the world of NASCAR, and there's some big developments in NASCAR that you won't want to miss, so definitely don't flip away during this commercial break. So, more Racing Report coming up after this. Welcome back to the Racing Report. My name is Rob Peeters. Thanks so much for sticking with us through that break. We really appreciate it. Let's go ahead and get right on into the news and notes of Supercars. And I promise you, we are talking about Supercars, even if we are going to briefly branch out and talk about real world, nation world relations, I guess. But here's the thing. We all know this. There's currently a war going on in Iran. And as a result of the war in Iran, a fuel crisis has emerged in Australia due to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this isn't nearly as big of a deal here in the United States, but in Australia, this is a hot button issue going on right now. You think gas prices are expensive here? Go down to Australia, you're going to see some significant sticker shock. Now, as a result of that, Motorsport Australia, which is the governing body of motorsports in Australia, says it is, quote, closely monitoring the situation, but as of right now, it doesn't seem like they're readying for any immediate issues or problems, cancellations, etc. Now, again, Supercars is also not in any immediate danger because the series runs E85 ethanol. That helps, especially because that's not going through the Strait of Hormuz. That's a lot easier to get and produce than actual real oil. So, as of right now, the only thing that Motorsport Australia and Supercars are anticipating this potentially impacting is the travel costs for the teams to get to events in Perth, Darwin, and Townsville. Now, if you're any way, shape, or form familiar with Australian geography, you know that Perth is all the way on the west coast of Australia, and Darwin is all the way on the northern part of Australia, whereas most of Australia is nicely around the coast of the southeast portion of the country, as well as Tasmania down there. So that could cause some problems throughout the season, but we'll have to wait and see. Maybe it gets better. But right now, Motorsport Australia closely monitoring that situation. Now, final piece of Supercars news to discuss this week is Team 18 officially says it will not field a fourth wildcard entry for Bailey Hall at Darwin. Now, the wildcard entries, the way things go, you know, you can have a wildcard entry here and there, add an additional car, but it has to be kind of restricted. You can't run a lot of races with that car, and usually it has to be for a driver preparing for a run later or an audition for next year. But originally, Team 18 was considering having him race a standalone race at Darwin, but apparently that has been scrapped. He will instead only race solo at Queensland Raceway before pairing with Craig Lowndes during the endurance races later on this year. So some important news to report there from Supercars for any Bailey Hall fans, but right now he's going to focus on his efforts in Super 2. Now let's go ahead and move on into the NASCAR news of the week, because we do have quite a bit. We've got an update to a story we brought you a couple of weeks ago, especially regarding Daniel Dye. Now, Daniel Dye has officially been reinstated by NASCAR following his suspension for comments made on social media toward IndyCar driver David Malukas. However, in his announcement that he was being reinstated, Malukas says he has resigned from Colleague Racing effective immediately, and as a result of that, Colleague Racing now says that Corey LaJoie will pilot the number 10 truck for the rest of the season, while this weekend at Rockingham, that number 25 free agent truck, which was originally supposed to be driven by Corey LaJoie, will now be instead driven by Ty Dillon. So some big updates there. Daniel Dye unsuspended, reinstated, back into NASCAR, but currently without a ride in any of the major top 3 series. So, and as we talk about that, I want to discuss something real quick. The biggest piece of discussion, arguably, over the past week has been the Hall of Fame, and this comes on the heels of NASCAR announcing the 2027 nominees for the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Now, I'll read them here for you. In the modern era ballot, we have Greg Biffle, Neil Bonnet, Tim Brewer, Jeff Burton, Randy Dorton, Ray Elder, Ernie Elliott, Kevin Harvick, Randy LaJoie, and Jack Sprague. Those are the nominees. Now, remember, only 2 can go from the modern era, whereas in the Pioneer ballot, only 1 can go, and those nominees are Ray Fox, Harry Hyde, Banjo Matthews, Herb Nabb, and Larry Phillips. For the Landmark Award, the nominees are Alvin Hawkins, Lisa France Kennedy, Dr. Joseph Mattioli, Les Richter, and T. Wayne Robertson. So that's your Hall of Fame nominees for the 2027 class in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. We will see who gets voted later on this year. Next piece of NASCAR news we'll talk about. Hey, Casey Mears is reappearing again. Casey Mears says he will drive in 5 Cup Series races for Beard Motorsports this year, culminating with his 500th career start at Homestead. So in total, those starts will be this upcoming race at Talladega later this month. Then he'll race the Brickyard 400 with Beard Motorsports in July. Then he will race the Coke Zero Sugar 400 at Daytona in August. He will run again in the fall Talladega race before hopefully getting his 500th career NASCAR Cup Series start at Homestead. So congratulations to Casey Mears. Hopefully he can make all those races and make that happen. But in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, we had a shocking development prior to this weekend's race at Rockingham. AM Racing has surprisingly withdrawn the number 25 Ford Mustang that was driven by Nick Sanchez. As of the recording of this episode, no real reason has been given for why the team has withdrawn, but as of right now, there will only be 1 Ford in the entire field for the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series this weekend at Rockingham. And like I said, we don't really know what the future of AM Racing is, where Nick Sanchez is going to land. Now, we know that team was running a part-time second car for Daniel Dye, and it hasn't really been stated whether or not he'll return to that part-time ride now that he's been reinstated, but at the very least, it's possible funding could have fallen through, and this has resulted in them having to withdraw Nick Sanchez from this weekend's event. Again, that could be true, could not be true, I don't know. Again, nothing official from AM Racing as of yet. I imagine by the time that this episode premieres, hopefully they will have addressed it. But again, as of Wednesday, so far nothing. But finally, the final piece of NASCAR news we're going to talk about today before we take our second break of the show is, again, about ratings. Now, Fox Sports 1, FS1, says it got 2.39 million viewers for the Cup race this Sunday at Martinsville, or last Sunday at Martinsville. Now, that is actually down slightly from last year's number, which was about 2.4 million viewers. So 2.3 versus 2.4, it's a very slight number. It's not much, but it definitely shows just how much March Madness kind of had an effect on some of the racing ratings this weekend, not just with IndyCar, but then also with NASCAR. Definitely an interesting thing to talk about as we discuss ratings each week. But that is it for NASCAR news so far. We're going to go ahead and take our second break of the show now. And when we come back, we're going to recap the races from last weekend and get you all ready for the races coming up this weekend. Even though there's not a lot, there's still plenty of racing going on this weekend at all hours of the day for your viewing pleasure. So highly recommend sticking tuned for that. So more Racing Report coming up after this. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back to the Racing Report. My name is Rob Peeters. Thanks so much for sticking with us through that break. Like I said at the top of the show, we had F1, IndyCar, NASCAR, all in action last weekend. And again, no shortage of action depending on who you asked. Some people were very adamant that last weekend's races were not that enjoyable to watch. Others said, oh, there was nothing wrong with them. You be the judge. Let's talk about it. In the Japanese Grand Prix out in Suzuka, we had Kimi Antonelli winning not just his second race ever, but his second race in a row in Formula One, right before they now take a month off before returning in May for the Miami Grand Prix. So it's going to be a month-long gap before we see if anybody's going to catch up to Mercedes. But one thing we did see over the course of this weekend was McLaren making great strides. Oscar Piastri finally started a race and didn't waste any time trying to go for the lead during the Japanese Grand Prix. But then also Lando Norris having a good run as well. I think a lot of positives to take away if you're a McLaren fan, definitely, from that race weekend. Now, Ferrari, Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc also still up in the running. It looks like it's now more of a 3-horse race than maybe a 2-horse race that we might have thought. Maybe the gap closes now that teams have a whole month to continue working and developing upgrades for their cars. Anything could happen, but something important to take note of is as we take this month-long break, Antonelli currently holds a 9-point lead over his teammate George Russell, and I'll be very curious to see how that gap either expands or contracts over the course of the year, because I'm definitely curious to see if Antonelli is in position to potentially challenge for a world title in just his second or third year of racing in Formula One. So, second year, I forgot. He was an F2 in 2014. Boy, I'm old and time flies fast, guys. But anyway, that was a Japanese Grand Prix in Suzuka. Overall, pretty fun, but definitely those regulations definitely create a lot of polarizing opinions. Yes, it was enjoyable kind of to see the cars slingshot and kind of pass a lot and run in more of a pack, but also at the same time, I think if you're a racing fan in the purest form, you kind of know that this is more maybe artificial per se than something happening natural. To each their own. Let me know if you're watching this on YouTube. Let me know down in the comments. Now, meanwhile, at IndyCar, we had Alex Palou dominate and win at Barber for the second year in a row. But it wasn't that easy. Because here's the thing. Late in that race, Palou did not have enough of a lead, really, to make a challenge for the win. It was probably going to be Christian Lundgaard. Lundgaard was killing it during Palou's outlaps, laying faster and faster laps. And then by the time Lundgaard finally did come in, if the team executed a perfect pit stop, I think he would have easily beaten Palou off pit road and probably gotten away with his second career IndyCar victory. But unfortunately, they had a problem getting the right rear tire on during that pit stop. That cost them a lot of time. Lundgaard ended up rallying still to finish second, holding off Graham Rahal, and later just watching Rahal fall back. Rahal held off David Malukas, but either way, it definitely seemed a little bit bittersweet for Christian Lundgaard. He could have had a victory there, but Alex Palou was dominant all race long, got a little bit of luck, came back, and won the race. And so Palou, we've got a couple of weeks off now for IndyCar going in, but Palou is 2 points behind Kyle Kirkwood in the standings right now. Could get pretty spicy by the time we get to Long Beach and then later to the Indy GP. Be very curious to see what happens between Kirkwood and Palou during those two races. But going on into NASCAR world now, Justin Allgaier scored another victory in Martinsville this weekend. Good for him there. And then in the Cup Series, we had Chase Elliott getting it done, getting the victory in Martinsville. Chase Elliott taking advantage. I thought it was a little bit of an interesting race. Some people might have said, oh, it was a little bit of a boring race, and stuff like that. But I really didn't see it that way. I could kind of see where maybe people were getting that. But, at the same time, I didn't hate it. It was unique. It was different. It definitely had a lot more action and attrition than we were used to. Definitely still a lot of tire fall off. But again, also, you got to remember, oh, man, that the stage cautions kind of hurt a lot of that, too. But overall, Chase Elliott beats Denny Hamlin, gets his first NASCAR Cup Series victory of the season, and that's going to be a very popular win no matter how you slice it. But as we talk about that, let's go ahead now and look at the races coming up this weekend because, again, it's a little bit of a slim schedule, but NASCAR is going to be in Rockingham. They're going to have the truck race on Friday. That's going to be a Friday afternoon race. So if you're working or you're at school, you're going to have to rush home as quickly as you can in order to get in front of that race on FS1. That I believe is around 4:30 p.m. Eastern time, so just be aware of that. But then if you're an early bird on Saturday, we've got the ARCA Menard Series racing also at Rockingham. That's going to be around 11 a.m. start before the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series races at Rockingham as well. But hey, if you're not that big of a fan of NASCAR, it's okay. Sometimes people aren't. Super Formula returns this weekend. That's right. Japanese Super Formula is back. They've got a doubleheader at the Twin Ring Motegi. Now, those races, since Motorsport TV has shut down, those races will now be streamed live, and I believe they will be free. I could be wrong about that, but I believe they should be free on Super Formula's YouTube channel, hopefully also in English. We'll see. But definitely, hey, 2 races overnight in the night for those night owls like myself, who work overnights, work nights, night owls. You're going to get an opportunity to, at the very least, watch some Super Formula racing this weekend at the Twin Ring Motegi. So that is it for this week's episode of the Racing Report. We really appreciate everybody who tunes in each and every week. We appreciate all of your support. We'll be back next week doing the same thing all over again, recapping the races from this upcoming week and getting you ready for the races that are coming up. So for WTHR Plus, my name is Rob Peeters, and this has been the Racing Report.